Imagine stepping outside after sunset and looking up at the sky. Instead of a familiar moon and stars, a gigantic glowing ring stretches across the heavens from horizon to horizon. A celestial bridge circles the entire Earth, shining during the day and glowing softly at night. Every civilization, every culture, and every human being would grow up beneath its shadow. It sounds beautiful, but what if those rings changed our climate, our history, and even the evolution of life itself? Today, we're exploring one of astronomy's most fascinating questions. What if Earth had rings like Saturn? The first thing people would notice is the sky itself. Saturn's rings are incredibly wide, stretching hundreds of thousands of kilometers into space. Yet, they are surprisingly thin. If Earth had a similar ring system, it would likely orbit above the equator, forming a permanent band around the planet. For people living near the equator, the rings would be breathtaking. They would appear as a gigantic glowing arch cutting across the sky from east to west. During the day, sunlight reflecting from billions of ice and rock particles would make the rings visible even under bright daylight. At night, they would shine like a silver river flowing across the heavens. The view would vary depending on where you lived. Near the equator, the rings would dominate the sky. As you traveled toward the poles, they would appear thinner and lower on the horizon. At the north and south poles, they might look like a narrow glowing line circling the sky. Ancient civilizations would be profoundly affected by this sight. Imagine the Egyptians, Maya, Greeks, Indians, Chinese, and countless other cultures trying to explain these mysterious celestial structures. Many might believe the rings were pathways for gods, barriers between worlds, or symbols of divine protection. Religions and mythologies could develop completely differently. Stories, artwork, architecture, and calendars would all incorporate the rings. Massive temples might be aligned to the brightest sections. Festivals could celebrate seasonal changes in their appearance. Navigation would also become easier. Before modern technology, sailors relied on stars. A permanent ring system would provide an additional reference point, visible from almost anywhere on Earth. Travelers could determine direction simply by observing the position of the rings. But the rings would not just change culture, they would also transform astronomy itself. Many of the stars near the ring's path would be hidden from view. Depending on the season and location, parts of the night sky would disappear behind the bright band. Early astronomers might struggle to map the heavens accurately. Some constellations could remain unknown for centuries. Ironically, while the rings would inspire curiosity about space, they might also slow humanity's understanding of the universe. The sky would be more beautiful, but also more complicated. And this is only the beginning, because those magnificent rings would have a far greater impact than simply decorating the sky. At first glance, rings seem harmless. They're just floating particles orbiting a planet. But on Earth, they could dramatically influence climate and weather patterns. The key factor is sunlight. Earth's climate depends on how solar energy reaches different parts of the planet. If large rings orbited above the equator, they would cast enormous shadows on certain regions. These shadows would move throughout the year as Earth's position relative to the Sun changed. Some equatorial areas could receive significantly less sunlight than they do today. Temperatures in these regions might drop noticeably. rainfall patterns could shift, affecting forests, rivers, and ecosystems. Imagine parts of the Amazon rainforest receiving less solar energy year after year. The entire ecosystem could evolve differently. Plant species adapted to reduce sunlight might dominate. Animal migration patterns could change as food sources shifted. Meanwhile, regions outside the shadow zones might experience different temperature distributions. This could alter global wind systems and ocean currents. The climate balance that currently supports life on Earth would be reshaped. The effects wouldn't stop there. The rings themselves would reflect huge amounts of sunlight back into space. Scientists call this planetary reflectivity albedo. A brighter Earth reflects more solar energy and absorbs less heat. Depending on the size and composition of the rings, global temperatures might decrease. Some climate models suggest that large ring systems could even trigger long-term cooling events. Earth might become colder overall, potentially affecting agriculture and biodiversity. However, the story isn't entirely negative. In some regions, ring shadows could reduce extreme heat. Areas that currently experience scorching temperatures might become more comfortable. Human settlements could develop in locations that are difficult to inhabit today. The rings would also create spectacular natural phenomena. During certain times of year, enormous moving shadows could sweep across continents. Imagine standing in a city as a faint ring shadow slowly drifts overhead, subtly dimming the sunlight. Entire landscapes would experience unique lighting conditions unseen anywhere in our current world. Sunrises and sunsets would become extraordinary events. Sunlight interacting with trillions of ring particles could produce vivid colors and unusual patterns in the atmosphere. The sky might glow with shades of gold, silver, purple, and blue. Photographers would never run out of inspiration. Yet the biggest challenge might involve satellites and space exploration. Modern civilization depends heavily on satellites for communication, navigation, weather forecasting, banking, and internet services. A dense ring system would create a dangerous environment around Earth. Space agencies would need to carefully navigate through billions of orbiting particles. Launching rockets would become far more complicated. Engineers would need precise trajectories to avoid collisions with ring material. A single high-speed particle could damage spacecraft traveling through the ring zone. Humanity's journey into space could become significantly harder. And that raises an intriguing question. Would we even reach space as quickly as we did in our timeline? Now, let's imagine a world where Earth has always had rings. Every human being in history grows up seeing them. Every civilization develops beneath their glow. How different would humanity become? The psychological impact alone would be enormous. Today, most people rarely look at the night sky. But in a ringed world, the sky would constantly demand attention. The rings would be impossible to ignore. They would remind humanity every day that we live on a planet floating in a vast cosmic environment. This might inspire scientific curiosity much earlier in history. People would naturally ask questions. What are the rings made of? Why do they stay in the sky? Can we reach them? The desire to understand the rings could accelerate astronomy and physics. At the same time, spaceflight would face major obstacles. Launching missions through a ring system would require advanced technology and careful planning. Early rockets might fail repeatedly due to collisions with ring particles. As a result, the space age could begin decades later than it did in reality. Imagine the first astronauts looking back at Earth from orbit. Instead of seeing a blue sphere alone, they would witness a stunning planet surrounded by glowing rings. The image would likely become one of the most iconic photographs in history. Tourism would eventually transform as well. Future space stations might be built near the rings, offering visitors breathtaking views of Earth, framed by billions of shimmering particles. Entire industries could emerge around ring exploration and resource collection. Scientists might even mine ring material for water, minerals, or industrial uses. The rings could also serve as natural laboratories. Researchers would study how particles interact, collide, and evolve over time. Lessons learned from Earth's rings could help us understand the formation of planets and solar systems across the galaxy. But despite all these advantages, the rings would not last forever. Planetary rings are temporary structures on cosmic timescales. Over millions of years, gravity gradually pulls particles inward or ejects them outward. Eventually, Earth's rings would begin to fade. Future civilizations might witness the slow disappearance of a feature their ancestors considered eternal. Generations would watch the rings grow thinner century after century. Poets would write about the fading crown of Earth. Scientists would track its decline. Entire cultures might emerge dedicated to preserving the memory of the Great Rings. One day, humanity could look up and see only fragments remaining, and eventually, the sky would become the one we know today. For those future humans, a ringless sky might feel empty. Earth with Saturn-like rings would be one of the most beautiful worlds imaginable. The sky would be transformed. Cultures would evolve differently, climates would shift, and humanity's path towards space exploration could change forever. Those giant rings would inspire myths, drive scientific discovery, and redefine what it means to live on our planet. Yet, they would also create challenges, from altered weather systems to dangerous obstacles for spacecraft. So, while our Earth may not wear a cosmic crown, there's something incredible about knowing that worlds like Saturn exist, showing us just how diverse and extraordinary the universe can be. If Earth had Saturn's rings, life would never be the same, and every night we'd be reminded that we're part of something far bigger than ourselves. What do you think would be the most amazing part of living on a ringed Earth? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more mind-bending journeys through the universe.